Dave. Oh, sorry, Nic and Dave. And so let's get this. Let's just get this cracking. Have we got a guest or something coming?
We have got a guest coming on today. It's Eric from Krakens Garage. He's an absolute godfather of the motorcycle vlogging industry. He's very supportive. He's got an amazing channel, and he's coming on fairly soon. We've got a bit of a theme for today as well, which is we're talking about Harleys versus Indians. What's the beef? So not so much which motorcycle is better. I'm sure we've all got our opinions, but more what's the problem? Why is there a rivalry? What's the deal?
I don't know. I turned off on a lot of those ones, the haters on each side, and I suppose it's like a Ford Holden thing, is it? There's always rivalry, and rivalry is good. And the one thing I wanted to point out, especially, was let's just stick to Indian and Harley, is with one without the other, probably would not be where it is without each other. Because when you've got competition, whether you're on a tennis court, a squash court, a football field, it's no good unless you've got the competition, because they're the ones that bring you up to a higher level.
I completely agree with that. It's good to have a competitive spirit, and you need some sort of compartmentalization or grouping in order to get that competitive spirit. And it brings out the worst in people, but it brings out the best in people. And I think it brings out more best than it does worst. Although I've always been a bit naive about it. Well, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I tend to think that people are just sort of having a bit of a rib and having a bit of a joke, that it's fun to say, oh, Harleys are better than Indians, and it's fun for people to go, Indians are better than Harleys. But every now and then I come across someone who's pretty serious about it, and it just takes me by surprise, because I think it's just like, I don't know, football teams just having a bit of a rib against each other, but we don't really hate each other, but it's fun to play it up.
Yeah. It's sort of beyond me. Whenever it starts to get serious, that's when I pull away from any conversation, whether it be face to face at a party or whatever, or on the Facebook and etc. I just, it's not even worth the argument or conversation. It's and the strange thing is that around town you definitely get that Harley Indian thing or whatever, and they don't want to talk to you or etc. And that's not with everybody, but it does happen, and I've had it happen. But when you're out on the country roads, when you're actually doing touring, it seems to be a whole different ball game. No one really seems to care. They're glad to see you in any form at all, because it's like, oh man, another rider. It's not about, oh, there's another Harley rider or there's another Indian rider. It's like, it's another rider who's riding. He's out in the middle of buck nowhere like me, and hey man, how you going? Oh, nice ride.
You're exactly right, man. There, everyone's having a good time.
I know. I'm always right, Nick, and I thought I was mistaken once, but I was wrong about that.
I suppose when you're sort of riding in the city to the cafes or for the photos or down the main strip to show off the bike, then it's going to be a lot more about how it looks than it is about, what you're doing, I suppose. It's just appreciating what other people have. But, I was looking at some of the history of Indian versus Harley, and they both developed the V-twin in the same year, which at the time was a really unusual thing. So maybe some of that rivalry started then, and they were both racing on like wooden tracks they used to have back then in the start of the 1900s. So that might have promoted that rivalry as well, that sort of sporting rivalry.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because you can look into the history, and certain websites will tell you a little bit slightly different on each story or whatever. Like Indian was 1901, Harley 1903, the rivalry started, but that's not actual fact. Indian really didn't get started properly until around the same time as that Harley-Davidson, when they really started to get, because Indian's first bike was more of just a little engine on a push bike. Harley really made the first one that looked like a motorcycle, was the first thing. And I'll be the first to admit that. But, it was like they both had incredible inventors and engineers on each side. But I can't remember who the first bikes were, but Indy and Harley weren't even the first ones to make an actual motorcycle. There was other ones overseas in Europe and stuff where that were doing it before them. So it wasn't like they were the inventors of everything. They were taking ideas off everything and just improving on it. As you do, you go, I'm going to make a bigger one, I'm going to make a better one, I'm going to make a bigger one, and then, Indian was the biggest selling motorcycle in the world. They were in front of everybody. And, the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then folded in 53 when they brought out the V4.
Really?
Yeah. And that, from what I've read, is destroyed them. It was like brought them right down. And it was like, they didn't sell. They were expensive to make. It was all sorts of crap. There was guys from the Indian that had left and gone over to Harley and et cetera, and back and forth. So that's when it all went sour. And of course, Harley just bang. That was all their market then, and pretty much all the way until the 2000s. When you had Gilroy come in and King of the Mountain. Where they were making them over there, but they never ever had the engineering capability, or they ever didn't have the money. So
was the V4 engine
and this
a
brings
bad
into a
engine,
whole.
or was it a good engine?
They had a lot of issues with it. I'm not claiming to be an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a motorbike expert. I just read bits and pieces and whatever, and because it doesn't really affect me or concern me. I ride what I ride, and I don't care what people think. But they had massive issues with them, as Harley did with certain of their bikes. They had ones where the engines were just completely breaking down and leaking all the time and blowing steam.
Well, that's the AMF
they
era
kept
that
on
you're
working
thinking of. When that was with they made the shovel head engine in 1966, and then AMF took them over in 69. It took a long time for them to sort out those issues they had with shovel head. Arguably, it's a pretty good engine once you've got everything sorted, and of course, massively characteristic. But I mean, that's a lot of where that reputation of Harley's unreliable and they're badly built comes from, is that shovel head AMF era before the Evo came along.
I will make a big statement here that I did hear. This was something that was very interesting to me. I watched a YouTube guy. I can't remember his name right now. I'll get that to you so you can probably pop his name up or whatever. But he made a really good argument and conversation in the sense that he said, "Why?" It was, the headline was something like, "Why Harley will always win." And I thought, "Oh, here we go." And I thought, "I'll watch this." And he made a good point. In what he was getting at was, when you say, so for instance, what you're riding is a Honda, right? If you say, "Oh, I've got a Honda," well, that could be a lawnmower, that could be whatever else they make, and then up to a motorbike, right?
Mitsubishi.
What stereo system? Yamaha stereo
Yeah,
system.
Mitsubishi make air conditioners and race cars.
Yeah, so you don't know what they're talking about. And Indian still hasn't got that. A lot of people won't know what an Indian is. But if you say, "Hey, I've got a Harley," bang,
True.
you've got a motorcycle.
That's true. You're right.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I thought, absolutely spot on. I've heard, and it's absolutely correct, because, and that's what Harley will always probably have, that little bit of niche on the top, because a Harley-Davidson is a motorcycle.
Well, what do you reckon, Digby? Are you going to be able to keep that 100% strike rate on is it a real Australian location name or not?
Of course, mate. I'm the goat.
Well, look, here's the location names. We've got Tomato Lake.
Yeah.
Sauce Bottle Swamp. Which of those do you reckon is a real name?
Tomato Lake.
Tomato Lake. So you reckon Tomato Lake's the real one?
Yeah.
Digby, that's 2 out of 2, 100% maintained. Nice work, mate. In Western Australia. We'll get our first piece of mail coming in, Digby, for the Motorcycle Talk mailbox. I mean, you can see it's right there. It's addressed to both of us. So that's pretty special, man. I mean, I think it's really something when someone takes the time to write you a letter. It shows that they care enough to take the time, that, you know, you mean something to them. Let's see what we got here.
All right. didn't know they existed anymore.
Yeah, I think it's sent from like the 1980s or something. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Dear Nic and Dave, I don't know why anyone would waste their time listening to you two half-wits. I hope your podcast fails, and I wish you both the opposite of success. From Edgar. Edgar.
Who?
Edgar.
Well, head car, go yourself, and let's meet up at the border is what I say.
Nobody cares what you think, Edgar.
I think Edgar should go himself.
If you'd like to write to Motorcycle Talk, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at motorcycletalknicdave@gmail.com.
We're very fortunate to be crossing over the seas today with a special guest. And I'll just give you a little description of his on his channel. This is Krakens Garage and Adventures. So his name is Eric, and he's a lifetime lover of Harley-Davidson motorcycles. His channel is sharing excitement, knowledge, and mistakes after riding for over 45 years with over 1 million miles.
Wow.
That's impressive. I almost have a build going on in his garage all the time, which I'm witness to. I've seen many times. This guy just tankers and everything. He'll take you on his trips and showcase great roads, great rides, and amazing people in his travels. About 50% of his channel is dedicated to Harley-Davidson V-twins. The rest is all 2 and 3 wheels, to include scooters. Now, this guy's got a few bikes, everything from scooters right, up. Life is too short to limit yourself to one brand. Absolutely agree. My goal is to share my journey and turn young riders into old riders. Very good statement. He's born in Ohio and he's raised in Virginia in the USA. He moved to Long Beach, California in '76. He's got an MBA in business management that he's earned. Now, before we go any further, let me just say, if you look back at Eric's videos, he's got, by the way, 290 videos. He's got 4,300 odd subs now. This guy's got incredible talent with his editing and what he does. But what's really just absolutely put the cream on the cake for me was his last video he's just done, because he's got long hair generally. It's going right down his back. I mean, it's a massive hair. He had his hair cut off to get donated to charity.
Correct.
And I think
children.
that's, that's just, I really got hard. It's hard to come out with words. I think it was just an incredible thing to do. And can you just give us a little background on that?
I've been growing that hair for a couple years now. It's no joke to get your hair halfway down your back. Lord knows I have a ton of hair, that's for sure. But I didn't tell anybody because that's just kind of my inside information. I decided to make a YouTube, hopefully to inspire somebody else to do it, that you could help change a child's life. They're getting picked on in school. You have burn victims, you have cancer patients, you have all kinds of terrible things, and kids are mean to one another, and it's hard. It's hard enough being a normal kid going through all that, let alone going through it with no hair, and that reaches out to me. My world according to Kraken is the future is looking pretty dim for the globe right now. I mean, it's really, the world is bleeding on many levels, and I choose to invest my time in children. I think that's the only chance for a better future for the entire world, not just America.
Is this a regular thing that you do, Eric, or is it going to become a regular thing?
It is a regular thing, and I'll grow it back out, and in a couple of years we'll go through the cycle again. And it's a pain in the ass. It's not fun riding with long hair and your hair getting knotted up, and all the insults on my insults on my YouTube channel and social media. People bust on me all the time about the hair. You look like a girl, whatever. I just don't care. I don't care. People find a reason to hate.
That's going to make some child feel absolutely better. It's a real gift.
Well, I hope so. I mean, we can. I set my channel up to help people, and that's what I do. it's not about me. Yeah, I guess it is when I'm telling my old dusty stories of crazy things that have happened riding, but I guess that's about me. But as a rule of thumb, my channel is here to help people and help turn young riders or new riders into old
Mm.
riders.
Yeah.
And
Just going on.
a new rider could be 70 years old. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, obviously not quite in the same field as yourself, but when I worked in the medical business, the medical trade, I got to see a lot of sick patients and kids and what have you. And it made me walk out just appreciating a little bit more in the sense, well, I've lost my hair. It's really not that big a deal. These kids, 5, 6, 7 years old and going through leukemia and cancer, you put a little bit of perspective into it. Yeah.
That is a big deal, and to the guy with the receding hairline or whatever, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
If I would have no problems being bald, I would rock it. I don't care. I mean, I am who I am.
You've obviously Harley-Davidson is your go-to motorcycle, but you've got how many sort of? So I know you're riding everything from a Vespa right up to the Harley. To tell us about some of the bikes there, Eric.
I have a cafe build that I'm working on a Sportster called the Roadster. It's clip-ons, rear sets. It's set up to actually corner, unlike any other Harley. And well, I'm just saying.
I'm backing off.
Well, as a result, it's probably one of the most hated Harleys because of the way I set it up. It doesn't match the get her done crowd that rides around on Harleys here in the United States. So there you go.
Yeah.
I march to a different beat, but I have the BMW R18.
Beautiful.
right.
Bike.
I have the Vespa, and then I have my Harley Icon Revival, which is
Oh,
nothing but an electric glide.
I was going to say a revival. I hadn't heard in those words. So it's an ultra glide.
It's a very rare bike. They only made 1,500 of them. The Icon series is something Harley started to do in 2021, where they dig up a classic bike from their history. The design cues of this one, the paint scheme, everything on it, the tractor seat, pardon me, with the basket on the back, is after a 69 Electra Glide. And that's why they call it the Icon. They have their Icon series and they're
Yeah.
numbered. Who cares about that? But I'm old
Yeah.
school. I like that old school styling.
Yeah.
I like that tractor seat that kind of floats there. It's on a piston shock that is just parts out of a police bin. They were very smart to just rob the parts bins from other bikes they're building and create something
Yeah.
and get the hype going on it. So, yeah, that was 1,500 of those globally. So here in United States, each state of all 50 states was lucky to get
Wow.
two.
Wow.
Isn't that with the 23 model they're bringing out a limited edition with the Ultra Glide? Is they same name? Or?
No, I suspect they'll probably do one of Elvis's Harleys. He was very well known for his skirted ones with
Yeah.
fringe that are more reach out to the Indian buyer. That style or era of bikes from the 50s. That's my best guess, but I don't know. Who the hell knows what Johann Zeit's going to do? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like the direction he's going with the company, and I'm. This is my last new Harley. I will go with different brands. It's. There's very few real dealerships in the United States anymore. It has turned
Yeah.
into piracy.
Yeah.
To buy any of these bikes, and they're marking them up $6, $7, $8, $10,000 over MSRP and fertilizer
Wow.
fees,
Jeez.
and that's never going to
No,
happen
no.
on my watch.
Digby and I were speaking before you came on about the Indian versus Harley rivalry. Not so much which bike is better, and different bikes are better at different things, but more where does this rivalry come from? And being in the United States, you'd be pretty open, you'd see that. So, what do you think's going on there?
When Indian started up their company in Springfield, Illinois. That's why one of their bikes is still called the Springfield to this day, which is a retro bike. At that time, World War I, World War II was going on, and there was over 115, I think, motorcycle manufacturers in the United States at that time. It was a hot ticket. Everybody was building one. Indian Harley survived that whole thing somewhat. Indian went out of business and has been bought and sold 2 or 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
So you're not going to like this remark, David. I take offense to their building bikes since 1906. You've been passed around the barn a few times, so you need to own that as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But with that said, everybody hates on the AMF era, which made bowling pins and whatever during that whole era, but it saved Harley-Davidson. Most people don't know this, but they invested the research and development and money with Porsche to make the Evo motor, which when 13 of the Willie Davidson and 12 others bought Harley-Davidson back, the Evo just came loose, and they're touted and patted on the back for saving Harley. It was the Evo that did. It was the first freaking motor that stayed together and
I'd
didn't
heard
leak.
that about the Evo engine,
And
but I
that's
didn't know it was AMF that created the Evo engine.
yes, sir. But to the victor goes the spoils, and the history books are always written by the victors. So yes, AMF put out some really crappy products, but they kept them afloat, and they didn't go under like Indian did. So you can hate on AMF till the cows come home. They give credit where credit's due.
But this is the exact reason, one of the reasons we got you on, Eric, it was your knowledge. I mean, I have to say, I probably pretty much learn something new every time I've watched one of your videos. I thought, geez, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that came from that. And I mean, you're taking me to school today for sure. I mean, even though I ride an Indian, I don't claim to know every part of the history or everything about it. The fact is, I'm more of a rider than I am a tinkerer in the garage of fixing things, where I know you can put things together. So I sort of like, where I'm at this stage, I do a lot of the riding, a lot of long distance riding, but I can see very shortly, not far down the track, I'm going to start messing around with things a little bit more and, get to know the history on why that engine's there and why that's done that way, etc.
It depends on whether you want to know. Some people don't.
Yeah.
I didn't really address your question. How did that rivalry get started with Indian? To answer your question, it was probably over World War II. They were both competing for government contracts to supply motorcycles to be airdropped and so on and so forth. They made pocket versions that could, they could dump them out of airplanes, so messengers can get from on the battlefield from a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And as overall, Harley kind of won those contracts, and that's probably where the rivalry started, in my uneducated opinion.
I know the Scout Indian was very popular for the war.
It was. It was, and Indian did very well during World War II as well. But time marches on. The owners get old. They hire new people to come in. They make bad choices, bad investments, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And Harley just hit the lottery with getting enough right people there to keep them just barely afloat for a long time.
Yeah. So, would you class the Indian Harley rivalry in the same categories as, say, over here we had Ford lovers, Holden lovers? I know Holden's more of an Australian brand.
It's a GM. Holden is 100%
General
GM.
Motors. Yeah. So you obviously would have had that over in the States. But, that car brand, he drives that, oh, you drive a piece of crap. No, you drive a piece of crap. I think it's a different rivalry, but that's just my opinion. But do you think it's just like a brand thing?
I think what Indian is doing now is brilliant. Let me start off by saying that. Do I think they're copying Harley's business model, almost designing bikes just like what's in the Harley lineup, except they're putting their water-cooled Thunderstroke and et cetera motors, which are far superior and a lot more horsepower and reliability. And why? Because they have cooling. Imagine that. And Harley's going to have to go in that direction. They're starting to now with the Revolution Max going in the Pan America and their Sportsters, and that will eventually go into their dresses and baggers. So Indian's already there. But with that said, I think the rivalry is more tongue in cheek. I think because Indian has mirrored Harley's business model so much that it has bruised their integrity with the Harley riders, if that makes sense. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not trying to mash on anybody's toes. You're asking my personal opinion, and
Well, that's fine. I mean, we're all allowed to have our opinion. I mean, and I think yours is more valued than most.
Oh, stop! Mine, don't be ridiculous. But if something happens to my Icon, I'm not going to replace it. It's going to be my last Harley. I've got to sell this Sportster because that's footing my bill for the Australia trip, which is big money.
That's quite a sacrifice, Eric, to give up a motorbike for a trip.
They're like Doritos. People get so in love with their bikes, and when people come over, if they're competent, and I've seen they can ride competently, here's the keys. Go try it. And they're like, "Oh my God, you let somebody ride your Icon?" Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna wreck it, just total it so I can get paid and go get something else. All right,
You don't want a dent, just write it off.
Total it. If it didn't total, run it into a tree again.
Well, we're looking forward to your trip. What I'm going to do is, if I can just throw some quick sort of
6 questions in 60 seconds. Yep.
Yeah, something like that. So, direct answers, Eric. First motorcycle.
1977 Yamaha RD 400 in Chappie Red.
Nice. Favorite fishing memory?
I'm a terrible fisherman, so there's not a whole lot of memories. I caught one decent fish on the lake I live in the last 14 years. The rest are bait.
What's your best? What's your best ride so far?
I have many. Probably when I lived in Southern California, my parents and I rode up the coast. We rode the mountains along California, and then we came back down the coast, down Pacific Coast Highway. We're out one. Nick will know where I'm talking about. Down through Carmel and all these beautiful areas. But my dad was my riding partner, and it's been a bleeding artery since I lost him. So, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's what I missed. That was actually probably goes into a question, is that if you had a choice if you could make a choice on who you could ride with, dead or alive, famous or not famous, who would it be?
Your dad. On his 47 Indian Chief right there.
Yeah, I knew that was coming before I asked the question. That is fan, and I absolutely hear you on that. I never got a chance to do that with me dad. So, I mean, that my dad and Elvis would be up there with me. You know, who I'd want to ride with.
Why the name Kraken?
Kraken, I'm Norwegian by heritage, Swedish and Norwegian, and he's a mythical beast that I always believed in as a child, and I always liked the premise of most people don't know this, but the Kraken is Germanic and Viking heritage lore. It was kind of their derived sea monster that they created. And most people think of Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that. It had nothing to do with that. It was designed by people to put the fear of God into sailors. But as a result, that's always kind of stuck with me. And when I thought about it, I thought about starting my YouTube channel. You have to look. So many people are named Mike, so they put Harley in their name. Yeah. Or Indian or something like that. My God, there's 5,000 Harley something or other
Yeah.
channels, and I'm not hating on anybody in Australia that has chosen that direction. They're wildly more popular than I am. But when you search them on YouTube or on Google, it pulls up so much information you're going to get lost in the sea. So pulling up Kraken's Garage, I'm like the second or third on the list. So that's why I chose it.
Right.
No, it's great. You got to have something unique.
And then that ties into my sales quips of how I brand my channel. Let's get Kraken, and so on and so forth. So,
yeah. Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an honour to have you on, Eric. Your knowledge, picking your brain, having a chat about different things in and out of travel and motorcycles and other things. So I personally want to say a big thanks, mate, and I look forward to hopefully we can catch up when you get here.
We're all looking forward to helping you out and doing things with you, and I really appreciate you making the time for this.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you check out Kraken's Garage Adventures. Eric, he's got some absolute quality videos out there, and we recommend it. And we'll see you soon, mate.
We'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.